We're diving deep into the core strategy of what the sources call the conspiracy to eradicate the Son of God, that ancient struggle and cosmic conflict that has raged for 2,000 years. This is a story that has been kept far from public view, driven by an intelligence behind the opposition that is almost beyond comprehension. My search took me down paths pursuing psychic exploration, Eastern mysticism, drugs, atheism, New Age beliefs, progressive humanism, scientism, or the occult. I learned that this opposition, run like an enormous think tank of hereditary initiates and geniuses, ultimately targets the faith because it seeks a post-Christian world order. Today, we focus specifically on the 20th century, the moment their strategic warfare accelerated. We'll see how the think tank used the promise of consciousness expansion and the Aquarian Age to erase Christ from the culture. The long, slow bend gives way to acceleration. For centuries, the opposition was forced to remain low-key, gloved and cunning, because the West unhesitatingly identified its foundation as biblical, based on absolutes. The strategy was gradualism and assimilation, because civilized society needed a gentler slope in this long-range culture war. This slow bending involved daring philosophers, scientists, and literary figures who appeared right on cue, like actors appearing on a stage. Figures like Charles Darwin, who argued away the need for a god to explain life and existence, and Freud, who taught that passions had to be released and explored, not repressed, laid the secular and moral groundwork. The opposition found that moral barriers that once restrained society were coming down. This slow process of change, lasting centuries, hit a major breaking point and accelerated in the 20th century, specifically during the 60s. This was the critical moment where the masses turned, basing their lives on other things and going to and fro in pleasure and confusion. The generation of rejection, seeking consciousness, expansion. The youth culture of the 1960s provided the perfect environment for the acceleration of the spiritual assault. This was the era where a whole generation rejected the traditional absolutes of biblical thought in exchange for new models of life and belief, all in a gut rejection of the old. They embraced this movement with total conviction. What did they seek instead of rigid biblical absolutes, pleasure and good life? They sought consciousness expansion, tinged with pleasure and the good life. The mystical, they embraced new humanist mystical models for life and society. The experience, this felt like a big, colourful psychedelic rock concert, a youth experience we thought would never end. Strawberry fields forever. This pursuit was aimed at a state of cosmic consciousness. I know what that feels like. I lived on the other side, seeing the universe through post-Christian mystical eyes. This state is a spiritual and mystical perception that all in the universe is one, including oneness between God and man. This acceleration was so effective because it targeted the inherent desire for spiritual transcendence, offering immediate gratification and unity instead of the hard truth. Embracing the Aquarian Age of liberation, the generation seeking consciousness expansion simultaneously embraced the idea of a coming global spiritual transition, the Aquarian Age. This was not merely a fad, it was a deeply strategic concept used by the think tank to accelerate the shift away from Christianity. Anticipating change, the generation embracing new mystical models was actively anticipating an Aquarian Age of liberation and change. Defining the age, astrologers believe this age of Aquarius is the phase humanity is moving into, shifting from the Piscean age, often associated with Christianity, into an age of spiritual man and consciousness expansion. The spiritual shift, the New Age, is often described using a specific vocabulary: planetary convergence, omega point, paradigm shift, transformation, the coming of the cosmic Christ, New Age. The goal. The aim was a post-Christian world order under our influence and control. The participants who embraced this new faith rising from the earth were speeding gleefully towards the millennium without a fear or a doubt in the world. The opposition used this framework to convince the masses that the separatist Christian faith was the outdated enemy. New Age leaders were actively saying that Christians were toxic and needed to be taken out of society as quickly as possible because they were impeding the flow of history and preventing the harmonic convergence, orchestrating the mystical shift, pushing the buttons. The sources confirm that the intensity of this accelerated cultural shift was not accidental. It was orchestrated by the think tank. The useful idiots. We were convinced we had history in our hands and knew we were in the dance of the hour. But the chilling truth is, we weren't the active agents of social change we thought we were. We were the ones whose buttons were being pushed, the useful idiots of a far larger revolution. Promoting false revelations, the think tank relies on channeled revelations to provide the doctrine for these new mystical models, a route to higher revelation that is repeatedly and expressly forbidden in the true canon of revelation. This includes works like A Course in Miracles, which was spirit-channeled through a Jewish atheist and promoted the idea that sin is the illusion that separates us from our own innate divinity. Media and events, the acceleration was amplified by massive media attention. New Age events like New Age fairs, world initiatives, UN celebrations, massive peace rallies, rock concerts with billions of attendees collectively would inundate post-Christian society and push the envelope of change. For example, the planetary mass in cathedrals was seen as an invocation of the coming global millennium and a spiritual sunburst to inaugurate the long-awaited New Age. The climax, mounting opposition and final eradication. The acceleration of the 20th century has successfully bent the world toward this post-Christian multicultural age that anticipates a different, unified world. This success means the opposition is now at its peak. Alarming increase, opposition to the Son of God, his message and his people has mounted alarmingly in our own era. This is predicted to reach unprecedented proportions right before his return, when public opposition would be at the boiling point. Losing freedom, little stands in the way to prevent this from happening. The result of the accelerated deconstruction means the youth would lose the heart and character to ever stand up to the state's increasingly ungloved iron fist. The final act, the think tank's ultimate goal, is to see Christianity totally erased. Those who refuse to be silenced by consent would be forcibly silenced to the point of death, as in the days of the Roman Emperor Domitian. Some New Age strategists even project that, for planetary transformation to take place, up to 1/4 of Earth's inhabitants will have to be excised like a cancer. This final campaign is seen as a way of removing God's presence on the earth by getting rid of his people. Conclusion: the cosmic trap and the end of the age. This massive, accelerated effort to usher in the age of Aquarius by promoting consciousness expansion is destined to fail. This long-standing opposition is temporal and will fade away like a dying flame. The sources remind us of the powerful paradox in some very real ways. This opposition proves that he is the Son of God and the only one worth following. The direction of history sought by the opposition will lead them into a trap of cosmic proportions. His return is certain. When he comes, he will split history and eternity, and all upon the earth will know without question who the real Christ is. The giant beast of the global machine designed to carry out the conspiracy would freeze in terror. The new age of spiritual unity, so fervently sought by the generation that rejected biblical absolutes, will be abruptly ended by the very figure they sought to erase.